Palace Pets, a bashful bunny for Snow White. Berry. Berry was a little bunny who lived among a berry bramble in the forest. She loved hopping through the woods collecting big ripe blueberries. But this little bunny was terrible shy. Berry was so shy, in fact, that she would scurry away and hide whenever she encountered someone new. One particularly bright summer day, the delicious smell of blueberries woke Berry from her slumber. With a stretch and a yawn, she was ready for breakfast. The bushes was bursting with sweet blue fruit. There must have been thousands of berries within reach, and all of them were ripe for the picking. Hopping along, Berry plucked berry after berry, popping each one into her mouth. That same morning, someone else was out on a berry hunt too. It was Snow White. The princess had promised to make the 7 dwarfs a special treat, and she thought a blueberry pie would be just the thing to bake for them. Luckily, Snow White knew just where to go to get the best blueberries in the forest. Soon enough, Snow White found a pocket of bushes full of ripe blueberries. She began picking the fruit carefully from the branches, gently dropping each berry into her silver pail. The pail was nearly full when she came upon a bush with the biggest, juiciest blueberries of all. Little did the princess know, a berry-loving bunny had already discovered that particular bush. Hiding among the branches, Berry wasn't about to let her beautiful berries to go to someone else. So just as Snow White was about to pluck a berry, the bunny plucked it first. Berry bit Snow White to every ripe blueberry in sight, one after the other. Snow White was puzzled. Who could be snatching up the berries right before her eyes? The princess tiptoed around the bush to take a look. She caught sight of a soft, fluffy tail, as white as snow, poking up from the thick green leaves. Snow White knew that, wherever it was, there was something at the end of that tail that loved blueberries. So she found the plumpest berry she had in her pail and placed it in her palm. Snow White knelt down next to the bush, held out her palm, and waited. Slowly, a sweet little bunny hopped out. When Berry saw the princess holding that big ripe berry, she no longer felt shy. Instead, she jumped onto Snow White's lap to eat the berry out of her hand. Snow White was so taken by the fluffy little bunny that she let Berry eat berries out of her silver pail all afternoon. Soon Snow White and the prince had to leave the forest. The princess said goodbye to Berry and started walking down the path toward the palace, her pail of picked blueberries swinging at her side. But the little bunny just couldn't let that big bucket of berries disappear. She had to have those berries. Without letting them see her, Berry followed the prince and Snow White all the way home. When Snow White got back to the castle, she set down her bucket of berries in the kitchen and started to gather the ingredients she would need for a pie. Suddenly, the pail began rocking back and forth before tipping over completely. Berries spilled out everywhere. Imagine Snow White's surprise when she saw Berry the bunny tumble out of the pail as well. Thankfully, the bunny was nearly full of berries, so there were plenty left over for a pie for the 7 dwarfs. Now Berry lives with Snow White and the prince in their castle. The bunny is so happy to have a new family of her own, and Snow White couldn't love her little friend more. Every morning, Berry bounced out of the bed to have breakfast with her princess. And while Snow White may have introduced Berry to new treats, blueberries are still the little bunny's favorite. The end.